Seen here, there weren't any. Late in the investigation, the NTSB staged a missile test.
As part of our study of witnesses, we conducted a missile visibility test. We did not conduct this test to determine if Flight 800 was struck by a missile. We've known for a long time that it wasn't. Instead, let's examine what a hypothetical missile attack would have looked like. The rocket motor of the missile would be visible, and it would look like a light ascending rapidly for about 8 seconds. Then the motor would burn out, and the light would disappear for as much as 7 seconds. After this, a second streak of light, the airplane in crippled flight, would become visible. It would be different from the first streak, moving slower. Then it would develop into a fireball. We carefully reviewed the witness accounts to determine if anyone described a scenario like this, one that began with 2 sequential streaks of light and concluded with a fireball. We could not find anyone who was describing this scenario.
Witness 649 describes this very scenario. He reports seeing an object like a firework ascend fairly quick, then slow and wiggle, then speed up and disappear. Then he sees a second object that glimmered in the sky higher than the first, then a red dot move up to that object, then a puff of smoke, then another puff, then a firebox. Mike Wire, like many others, says much the same thing.
And as it went out, it left like a white smoke behind it, and it zigzagged and curved back and forth, and it made a little turn, and it arced over, and as it arced over, it disappeared. And then a few seconds later, a big fireball erupted out over the water.
Other witness drawings might have proved even more awkward to explain away, but fortunately for the NTSB, at least 30 of them have turned up missing. According to an NTSB exhibit, however, 96 witnesses report seeing the streak come off the horizon. 96. This did not deter the agency from creating its own animation, one that also showed a noseless plane ascending from a starting point 20 degrees above the horizon.
We've carefully studied and considered all of the witness accounts. The witness reports of a streak of light are consistent with them having observed Flight 800 in crippled flight. They're not consistent with a missile.
This is a depiction of what the NTSB's theory of the breakup sequence is. They got smart when the CIA got laughed out of town by aviators when they showed it climbing 3,000 feet. The NTSB said, well, maybe we'll get away with half of it. So they say it climbed 1,700 feet. You know, it didn't.
The eyewitnesses were not impressed either.
Group put in a full-page ad in the Washington Times, including 6 witness accounts. And what do you think about those accounts?
Well, I actually have the ad with me. I can, if you like, talk very briefly about the witnesses that are mentioned.
Well, anybody wants to spend that much money to put a newspaper ad in, I'd sure like to have you go through it.
Well, the first witness who's listed in the advertisement was the witness who was on the bridge when he saw the accident. This is the witness that I described earlier in my presentation, and I told you that his account was consistent with the motion of the airplane in crippled flight.
The first witness was Mike Wire. He saw no such thing.
Around March of 2000, I found out that my story, my testimony had been used to create the video, and they never talked to me about it, so I didn't understand how they could use me.
The second witness in the ad is the witness who was on board U.S. Air Flight 217. I explained to you that he couldn't have seen a missile hit TWA Flight 800 because the timing just simply doesn't work out.
The second witness was Dwight Brumley, a 20-year military vet. He knows exactly what he saw and wonders why no one ever bothered to find out.
Despite my vantage point of being directly over the top of the explosion, a very unique vantage point, some level of expertise, understanding relative bearing, true bearing, motion, etc. Nobody with any aviation expertise ever contacted me.
The fourth witness who's listed in the advertisement said that he saw or in the advertisement it says he saw the accident from the deck of his house, seeing a glowing red object pick up speed and streak out to sea. Then he saw a series of flashes and a fireball, according to the ad. However, on July 21st, 1996, when the witness was interviewed, his FBI witness document says that he saw a red flare descending. It makes no mention of some of the other details. In fact, he was the first witness I used as an example in my presentation.
The fourth witness was Paul Angelides, a consulting engineer who frequently testifies in court.
And I gave them a sketch, and I had, point 1, point 2, point 3. So I was showing the sequence and little hand sketches of what I saw in the sky in terms of the red phosphorescent object, its little smoke trail, its travel outbound, the cigar-shaped cloud, the fireball, the black smoke trail, and so on.
Angelides never said he saw only a flare descending, as Mayer claimed. Instead, he gave the FBI specific drawings of an object streaking out to sea.
See, the fifth witness that's mentioned in the advertisement is the pilot of the National Guard helicopter, who obviously I already described, that we studied radar data and calculated a time for his departure from out to the accident site from Gabreski Field, and said that he had seen a fireball in the breakup sequence of the airplane, not a missile.
The fifth witness was Vietnam combat vet Major Fritz Meyer.
Unguided, but it was definitely a rocket. And what I saw explode in the sky was definitely military ordnance. I have enough experience with it to know what it looks like. And I saw 1, 2, 3, 4 explosions before I saw the fireball. So the fuel in this aircraft eventually exploded, but the explosion of the fuel was the last event, not the initiating event. The initiating event was a high-velocity explosion, not fuel. It was ordnance.
Said FBI honcho Jim Kallstrom specifically about Major Meyer and these other key witnesses, "I have no idea why they say what they say. It's nonsense. It's stupid. It has no base in fact at all. Remember, the FBI interviewed Major Meyer for all of 5 minutes." As to the NTSB, there is some question whether even they believe in the ascending plane theory.
If you could show that the airplane did not climb after the nose departed, would that change your analysis?
No, sir, although we believe that the airplane climbed after the nose departed from the work that Dennis Kreider and others have done, it's actually not, our analysis is not actually dependent on this.
Now, is sound effect?
The question remains, why did these agencies champion a theory in which they themselves had little faith and in which no one else had any?
What troubles me most about what the government has been saying about this is their insistence that there is no physical evidence of a criminal act or a missile or an explosion of any kind other than a center ring tank explosion, and that's completely false.
Even by the standards of the Clinton administration, this was a troubled investigation in every detail. Let's start with the witnesses.
Normal board procedures were not followed on this investigation, and we are addressing that.
For the record, not a single eyewitness was allowed to testify at any NTSB hearing. The NTSB did not, however, shut out all alternative theories.
The meteorite, we got a lot of correspondence on meteorites.
And as you know, we had someone testify at the public hearing.
At the public hearing on the subject of the meteorite. The missile.
Problematic, too, was the initial FAA report of a missile strike seen on radar. In December '96, the NTSB leaned on FAA to make it go away. Wrote Bernie Loeb, NTSB Director of Aviation Safety, "I would appreciate it if you could verify that all specialists and/or managers agree that there is no evidence within the FAA ATC radar of a track that would suggest a high-speed target merged with TWA 800. But the FAA was not quick to roll over. Although we understand and share your desire to allay public concern over this issue, we cannot comply with your request. By alerting law enforcement agencies, air traffic control personnel simply did what was prudent at the time and reported what appeared to them to be a suspicious event. To do less would have been irresponsible. David Thomas, FAA Director of Accident Investigation.